Alrighty, morning everyone and welcome back to talking about flight sims. I made a little video a couple of days ago. The point of this video was to voice my concern about what's going on with X-Plane 12 and why we need a good and strong X-Plane in order to keep other sim developers on their feet, like a competition thing. There were different views on that. Some said we don't need competition. I don't think that this is a really valid point, but my concern was X-Plane was dying. And I based it on numbers that I found from Twitch, Metacritic, and Steam. However, after days of all kinds of logical fallacies, someone actually found it in their heart to present some new data, at least new to me now. The data was already there. So I want to do a little follow-up on that video and correct myself. And we are talking about the community survey by Navigraph. Now keep in mind, this is not a representation of sales figures, but I get to that at the end of the video again, why this is not that important right now. We can see from here how the usage of X-Plane and other sims developed over the last years, at least in terms of the survey. So we are currently looking at the chart of 2021. I don't want to go back further because Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 was released in August 2020, I think. And so I think the real usage of that just started in 2021. I will focus mostly on most of the time and frequently. So I will ignore these sometimes or infrequently numbers here. When we talk about what sim are we using most of the time, then that's frequently and most of the time. So that's, I think these two combined are the figures that are interesting here. So let's focus on that. And as you can see, this is the survey from 2021. Okay, so here we have, I do not know why they differentiate between X-Plane 11.0 till 4.1 to 5.0 plus. But okay, we just add this up, then this is fine. And we can see that this is, when we go through most of the time frequently, that this laminar, so the X-Plane 11.5 is used like about 31%. And then we add these two, this is about, what is this? This is not exactly 5, let's say 4. Let's say this is 4% and that adds up to 35%. So X-Plane 11 was used like by 35% of these users who participated in the Navigraph survey. And Microsoft Flight Simulator comes down with the first two to like, what is that, 52%. I'm not really understand how anyone, with the release of X-Plane 11, how anyone could use Microsoft FSX, but apparently I don't want to add this up here because this is not comparable to me. FSX and 2020 are there, just words between them. But anyway, so this is about let's say 52 usage for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and X-Plane, we said about 35. So then the next year, 2022, again, I do not understand how anyone in the year 2022 could use FSX, but I'm not doubting these numbers, by the way. I just find this weird. Microsoft 2020 went from, what did we say here, 52 to let's say 67, so that's a 15% increase, which I think you could explain by this was the year that it took off. I think it was the year where the PMDG was released, where the fly-by-wire mod was really, really good. I think even the Phoenix was released in that year. So to be expected that there's a somewhat of an increase in usage and new planes, everyone wants to fly them. So this is to be expected, I think. 15% is a huge increase, but I think that's okay. And of course, X-Plane 12 was released. 10% is pretty big for a sim that just was released. If you look here, it's 11%. Then we add the, what is that, 17%. So 11 plus 17, that's 28. Let's say these are 2%, so that's 30%. So the X-Plane usage dropped a little bit from 35 to 30%, and the Microsoft Flight Simulator usage, at least in the terms of most of the time and frequently, increased by 15%. So this looks like Microsoft Flight Simulator takes over, but in the next year we will see that this is somewhat finding its balance, I say. So if you look at 2023, we see that the Microsoft Flight Simulator usage went up here from 67 to, let's say 75%, so another 8%, not as big as the jump the year before, but about 7 to 8%. And the X-Plane usage increased also, I think, to, this is 20, X-Plane 11.5, that's 10, that's like 2, so then that's 2 to 32%. So it was like at, what was it here? 30% to, so it increased again to 32%. What do these numbers mean? So it shows that at least amongst the people who participated in the survey here, the X-Plane usage didn't really drop. X-Plane 12 increased by about the same margin I say that X-Plane 11 lost. So people are really swapping over from X-Plane 11 to X-Plane 12. So this is how I would interpret this. All in all, the X-Plane usage, the X-Plane user base is pretty stable. This is what I would conclude from this. There isn't really any risk of X-Plane dying. So my concern that I voiced in that video, where I said like, okay, this is bad because X-Plane is dying, and then we are, having Microsoft only, and the last time that happened, we got this FSX stuff here. I don't know if you remember this stuttering mess that was FSX and the salvation that was X-Plane 11. So maybe I remember Microsoft FSX worse than it actually was. Point is that I don't want any one sim developer to have the field to its own, because the last time, in my opinion, it resulted in a pretty bad sim. And that was my concern. So looking at the survey, this somewhat alleviates it. I think that the X-Plane user base is pretty stable. That's okay, that's fine. However, I said before that these are not sales figures. So if you want to draw a conclusion of if X-Plane can survive. But there's another information that I heard that Laminar is currently hiring people. I couldn't really find confirmation on that, but I don't really need a confirmation on that. If I see here that the player base is stable, that people actually swapping from X-Plane 11 to X-Plane 12, thus bringing in new money for Laminar, then I do believe that Laminar will be fine. So my worries that we will be stuck with only one single Microsoft ring to rule them all, and then we get some stuttering rubbish as we did 15 years ago, that is, I think somewhat alleviated. However, there are also a couple of things that I said in that video that I stand by. I was recently using X-Plane 11 again. I got the Indibus A300, 600, and I used them on all three sims because it's available for X-Plane 11, X-Plane 12, and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And I have to say, it was really amazing to me how good X-Plane 11 is. First of all, it looks better. Not as good. In my opinion, it looks better than X-Plane 12 because you don't have this gray tint over everything. Like, I know you can get rid of this with reshade, but in X-Plane 11 I don't have to. The clouds look better, and the difference in flight model for me personally was, I didn't expect it to be this big. In X-Plane 12, the plane was really nervous, at times really hard to control. In Microsoft Flight Simulator it was okay, but the amount of control that I had over it in X-Plane 11 was really mind-blowing. I don't know if this is realistic necessarily. Again, I cannot make any judgment on that, but I can say what is the most fun for me, and the X-Plane 11 flight model is just the most fun for me because I have so much control over the plane that I'm flying. So based on my experience, my recommendation to stick with X-Plane 11 if you like X-Plane still stands. The other thing that I stand by is please do not buy any age-old planes from any third-party developers. Support plane developers who do regularly, support Zebu, support Tolis. They are to me the pinnacle of plane makers in X-Plane. But please do not buy any old rubbish. So then that's it for this video. Have a happy new year. I'm talking to you next year. Until then, take care and tschüss.